do you build a great SOI? Well, first of all, let's just start with what an SOI is. That's your sphere of influence. Now, this is very sales 101. So if you are somebody who is experienced at sales, you might just want to click on and move along, but you also might want to share this with a young whippersnapper who has just gotten into sales in some regard. Often we start talking about sales and all of the different pieces involved with acronyms that we know, but that a newer person doesn't know, which acts as a very weird barrier to entry. So let's break it down. What an SOI is the people that you know. So first of all, let's talk about what that means. In today's world, if I say influence, you're starting to think about somebody on Instagram with 2.4 million followers and shares and likes and comments. That's not the kind of influence we're talking about. Now, that might bring you some monetization from an online platform, but it may or may not build your actual sales business. When I talk about influence in the form of sphere of influence, I'm talking about the people who want to hear you speak. They value your input. They ask you questions and they expect you to have some kind of a reasonable response for them that is full of competence and knowledge, and even better, some compassion and empathy, because you are a human that they know and respect. So let's look at what a sphere of influence is, especially as regards real estate. It's the list of people that if you call them, they know your name on their phone. They're like, oh, look, it's Leigh Brown. And they click accept and say, hey, Leigh Brown, what you doing? Although hopefully they say your name. And also, if you were to call them, they're saved in your phone and you're saved in their phone. That's where the understanding really should begin with the sphere of influence. Now, when I got into real estate, some of that early training told me just to make list of names, list everybody you've ever met, everybody you went to high school with. Well, if I look at my high school graduating class, high five Northwest Cabarrus class of 93, I might know a lot of those people, but I don't influence all of them. The ones that I have influence over are the ones that I have had conversations with, spent time with, went through life with. Now, I want to add an asterisk here. These are not necessarily people with whom you agree on everything, because some of my dearest friends in life, we don't agree about very much, but we have shared life, and they still come to me with real estate questions because they know that I have knowledge and competence in real estate, and they also know that we have something in common. And so we have a relationship that gives me a chance to provide information. That's your sphere of influence. Now start thinking about where those people are located. Maybe it's your high school graduating class. Maybe it is your college graduating class. Now, I went to a very large school, and so my sphere from college is very small because I did not get out and do the super social thing. I was working on the side while I was in school. However, those friends from that job, they're part of my sphere of influence. So now you're going to think about all the jobs you've ever worked, whether it was at the DQ or did you work on the beverage cart at the golf course like I did? Did you bartend? Did you wait tables? Did you work a regular jobby job from 8 to 5? Wherever you've worked, you've probably made 2 to 3, 5, 10 people as friends with whom you can still have conversations. You can even text them and ask them a question. So start looking at all the jobs you've had and figuring out who's going to answer the phone when you call them. So now you're thinking, all right, we got high school, we got college, we got jobs. Who else is in your sphere of influence? Well, hopefully most of your family is, and I don't say all because I'm in the South and we know it's never all. So look at your family list. Where do you have aunts, uncles, cousins? And maybe you're the person with no family at all. Yes, you do. You have a family. Yours might be created by you, that whole Friendsgiving idea. Start looking at the people that you would call if you were in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. Who is going to come get your pocketbook and sit by you? That's your family. So put those folks on your list. Now, what about your faith life? Whether you go to a church, a synagogue, a mosque, wherever you go to do some worship, you're going to have people there with whom you're doing life and who will answer the phone when you call. For most people, that sphere of influence is going to be somewhere around 100 to 200 people. Now, here's the crazy part. You're going to hear some professional real estate trainers. You will hear a lot of people in sales training that say that you want to get that to 1,000, 2,000, 10,000. That's not realistic. I want you to know that. Those are just numbers. If you have 1,000 people on your list, there is no way that you as a human have the bandwidth to generate relationships with 1,000 people. And if you think you do it on the internet, that's not true. Those aren't two-way streets. But you're going to have 100 to 200 people with whom you have a two-way street. Now, let's say you're getting into real estate and you have just moved to Concord, North Carolina. Hey, what's up? Come to my office and we'll talk. And you just moved from Schenectady, New York, and you don't know anybody here. All right, first of all, still put together that information for the sphere that you have left behind in Schenectady. Hopefully you're still going to be in relationship with them, be friends with them, know what's going on in their life, and maybe, just maybe, some of them want to relocate to Concord and say, oh, let's get out of that high tax environment and move to North Carolina. You want to have those relationships intact so that you can help them. So start with what you already have. Now you do want to expand it. I'm not suggesting that you're trying to people hoard and get to 1,000 people just for the sake of numbers, but now that you live in Concord, how are you going to dial in? Well, you're going to find that faith home and you're going to start to build some relationships there. Maybe your kids are in the school system and you want to volunteer and tutor and be a part of the PTA. Get involved and build some relationships there. Maybe you get involved with the food pantry, the battered women's shelter, the arts council. There are so many ways for you to get involved and make some relationships there. And I don't mean that by calling Habitat for Humanity you have to immediately be on the board. There are volunteer opportunities in the Restore. You will meet other like-minded volunteer people in the community, whether they're shopping or working there, and then you can go volunteer on a build site. Sometimes building your sphere of influence is simply a factor of doing something that you enjoy with other people who enjoy it. Now, it's not an immediate fix, right? But we really shouldn't be looking at our businesses as an immediate quick fix. That's another reason the whole Instagram influencer world has shifted how we think about building a business. It's not supposed to happen with virality. We don't really need more viral people in the world. I'm just going to say it. A virus ain't something you're looking for, people. So when you think about this, you don't need to build it quickly. What if you build it thoughtfully and carefully with the right people who know you and like you, and you know them and like them, and you will build a business that is sustainable because you're building it on real relationships that go two ways. And for those of y'all that are my super nerds, I just want to point out to you that there is research going back to the 1990s by a professor whose last name is Dunbar, and he was doing some research on how many relationships any adult human can manage. And Dunbar's number lands at 150. Now, he says, of course, some people are better and some are worse at maintaining and nurturing those relationships, but 150 is the magic number. And I want you to think about that behavioral piece as well and give yourself the freedom to lean into those 150 relationships. Call people more, text them more, take them out to coffee or lunch. Instead of trying to please the whole world, what if you just take care of the people who already like you and have some trust factor with you? And then you'll build a business that is sustainable. Now, what if it doesn't give you enough money because the real estate markets are low? What if that's not fast enough? Okay, work a side hustle. Go wait tables at night. Go to Samaritan's Purse and start packing Operation Christmas Child boxes on the side. Go find another source of revenue. But if you're going to build a small business correctly, build it wisely. Build a good foundation, and then you can add on extra stories. You can add on additions and pools and backyards. But if you don't build the foundation correctly, no matter what you add later, it may just crumble. So I want you to think about the sphere of influence as a building block. And the last thing I want to leave you with is this. The best way that you influence people is by not thinking about them as part of your database. What if you stop thinking about that list as the number that you're trying to hit and all of the humans that you get to talk to? So instead of a sphere of influence, I want you to think about that as being your people. And when I say your people, they're the ones that know you, like you, and trust you, and you like them, know them, and trust them. And if you want a really good, tangible way to know if you're keeping up with that sphere, with those people, if their mama fell down and broke her hip, did you know about it? Because your people, you know what's going on in their life because you want to be a part of it and be a help and an assistance to them. And if everything in life is happening and you had no idea, that's all right. You can rebuild those relationships if it's valuable to you. And sometimes you say, you know what, that person is in my database, they're in my newsletter, but it's not my sphere, it's not my people. So give yourself permission to pour in. What you're going to find too, that sphere of influence pours right back into you, and your business won't just be sustainable, it will be delightful. Now, if you have a question about something in sales and you want to ask this old pro, drop it in the comments, and you might just be the topic of another video later as I answer the questions that come in. And by the way, follower, thank you for asking this one because it's really important to a lot of people who may have even lost a little bit of touch in the last few years. Subscribe, comment, and I'll see you.